Welcome back to my channel and to the lectures on game theory. So today we are going to deal with the solution concepts in game theory. There are many solution concepts. We will see them one by one, that how to use them. So today's topic is dominant strategy. So first thing first, what is a solution concept? So we realized in our previous two lectures that a game is a strategic situation, an abstract representation of a strategic situation where we are interested to find the outcome given the preferences of players and their actions. So how we find this outcome? What is the modus operandi? How should we logic about this? That is the solution concept. There are many ways of finding that. Sometimes one player has a upper hand or both player can have an upper hand in one particular action. That can be one way of arriving at this equilibrium or the final outcome. Let's use this term right now, final outcome. Uh, Sometimes it is possible that only one player has a dominant hand. Sometimes none of them have any upper hand, but we can actually find something that can still work out to an equilibrium. So we will keep on seeing these things. So this is what is a solution concept in very loose terms. So we are revisiting prisoner's dilemma. So quickly to tell the story, there was a situation in which two individuals who are suspect in a serious crime, say armed robbery, they are caught, but then police does not have evidence of armed robbery. They were possibly only hatching the plan, and police has evidence of only petty theft. And if they want to nail the suspect for the armed robbery, they need testimony from at least one of the suspect. So what does the police do? It separates the two suspects at the police station and questions each in a different room. Each suspect is offered a deal that reduces the sentence he will get if he confesses Fink on his partner in crime. The alternative is for the suspect to say nothing for the investigator or keep mum so that they do not get the incriminating testimony from him. Now the payoff are laid down as followed, that if both decide to keep mum, that is not to confess, then both get 2 years in prison because the evidence is sufficient for giving them a petty theft uh, sentence for a petty theft, and then they will end up 2 years in jail. So if player 1 does not confess while the player 2 confesses, then the player 1 will get 5 years in jail while the other player, that is player 2, while the other player, player 2, he will get only 1 year in prison for being the sole cooperator with the justice system. Okay, the reverse will happen if player 1 confesses while player 2 does not confess, and if both of them confess, then both will get 4 years of year in prison. The reason for reduction from 5 years to 4 years is that each will blame that the other person was the mastermind behind the robbery. So police can maximum give them book them for 4 years. So now we have also seen in the previous lecture that how to write the normal form. If you are so I'm not going to deal with that how to write the normal form here. If you need to see that, please see the lecture number 2, the lesson 2. Okay, I will the link will be here. Now this is the normal form. Now there is one final step, that is to write this in a matrix form. So how do we write in a matrix form? So what we do, we make a matrix like this. By convention, the row player, that is these are the rows, these are the columns. So by convention, row player is always the player 1 and column player is always the player 2. So they have same actions, mum, fink, mum, fink. So we need to put their payoffs here. Again by convention, when we are writing, the first payoff is always of the player 1, while the second one is for player 2. So this belongs to this person, this belongs to player 2. So we can actually write it like this. As an exercise, you can pause the video here and write the remaining payoffs. And once you are done, you can come back and see the payoffs are written here. Here I have a liberty of using colors, so I have shown the player 1's payoff with dark blue color, while player 2's payoff are plum black color, so that you can further understand that this player 1's payoffs are the first entry in the cell, while player 2's payoff is the second entry in the cell. So now this matrix is available. This is the matrix representation of the prisoner's dilemma. Once this is done, how can actually we use our solution concept of dominant strategy to solve this? So let's see. First, we need to understand what is a dominant strategy. So a dominant strategy is that this is the best no matter what the opposition does. So for prisoner 1, the dominant strategy will be one action that is best for him irrespective of what the other player is going to do. We further differentiate between strict domination and weak domination. So to quickly define strict domination, in a strategy game, player I's action A double dash strictly dominates her action A dash if the payoff for player I resulting from playing action A double dash when everyone else is playing action A, not I means everyone other than the player I. This is strictly greater than, see, this is strictly greater than payoff to player I from playing strategy A dash when everyone else is playing A. Okay, for every list A not I of the other player's action. Thus, action A dash is strictly dominated. You can further write it by action A double dash. Okay, so this is how we technically define the dominant strategy. Now, once strictly dominant strategy. Now, once you know that this is the strictly dominant strategy, then this is very important to understand that whenever a player has a dominant strategy, he will play this. So we interchangeably use the word strictly dominant and dominant because when this is not strictly dominant, we already used term. We always use term weak domination, so that's clear-cut distinction. So we use term dominant and strict dominant interchangeably in this lecture. So now we know what is dominant strategy. Now we know that if a player has a dominant strategy, he or she is going to use it for sure. So now go back to our prisoner's dilemma here. Can you tell me what is the dominant strategy in prisoner's dilemma? So how can we say this? How to find a dominant strategy here? Let's see. Again, this is how if the players are going to think. So player 1 is thinking, if P2 confesses and I do not confess, then 5 years of prison for me. Okay, so I should confess, means look here. If player 2 confesses, player 2 is confessing and I do not confess, then I will end up getting 5 years while player 2 is getting 1 years. He is not concerned about player 2 that what he is getting, that his term is reducing. He is concerned that his term is actually increasing, right, to 5 years. And if P2 does not confess and I confess, then I get only 1 year. So I should confess. Again, look back in the matrix. So what if the player 1 confesses, thinks he gets 1 year if player 2 does not confess, right? So he is getting better deal here, right? So fine. Now this tells that Confessing is better for player 1 in both circumstances. Whether player 2 confesses or player 2 does not confess, player 1 should actually confess. This is better for him. So players are symmetric in our game. So what will happen? Player 2 will also reason in the same way, and in result both will end up confessing, and you see what is happening. When both are ending up confessing, the outcome is this. Outcome is this is Fink Fink, with resulting payoff of 4 years of prison for each, right? We will use this idea again to discuss about Pareto optimality and Pareto concepts, but right now we are just brushing them aside. So this is our end result. Fine. So this was about strict domination. So we see that here confesses, we can say that confess or Fink is dominant strategy for both players, right? And because player, when they have dominant strategy, they're going to play it, so both will end up confessing. Fine. So now we said that there is something by name weak domination also. So what is weak domination? So this is the situation when an action AI is as good as the other action. Okay, it's as good as, no matter what the other players do, and is better than the second action for some actions of the other player. Okay, so it is equally good for some actions of the other player and strictly better, sorry, and better for some actions of the other player. So this gives us that action AI weakly dominates the other action. So how we define this technically? In a strategic game, player I's action A double dash weakly dominates her action A dash if payoff to player I from playing A double dash when everyone else other than player I is taking an action A is greater than equal to, okay, for greater than equal to the payoff to player I when C plays A dash, okay, while everyone else is playing A. For every list A not I of other players action, and this is payoff from playing A double dash is strictly greater than payoff for playing A dash for some actions of the other player. So it means if there are suppose 3 actions, so for at least one action it is strictly greater than payoff from any other action, and for say remaining 2 it is equally good, or remaining 1 it is equally good. Okay, so this is weakly dominant strategy. So let's try some examples. So before we proceed, let's try some examples. So I'm making one matrix. See here. So as the convention go, this is the player 1, this is the player 2. Okay, let's me increase the thickness. Okay. Now we will be showing you only the actions available to player 1. Actions available for both player, but the payoff of only player 1, because we are trying to show that what domination means for any player, we can solve for player 2 in the same way. So this is 1 0 2 0 2 1. So these payoffs are only for player 1. We are not showing payoff of player 2 right now. So think about this. If P2 plays L, then between T and M, which is better? So between T and M, then for player 1, between T and M, see what will happen. When player 2 is playing L, playing M gives him payoff of 2, while T gives him payoff of 1, and 1 is less than 2, so M is preferred over T. M is better. But what if P2 actually chooses R? Then for P1, payoff from T is 0, payoff from M is 0. And I don't need to say that 0 is equal to 0. So he will be indifferent between these two payoffs, right? So you see, for one particular action of player 2, that is L, M is strictly better than T for player 1. Okay, because 2 is strictly greater than 1. While for the other set of action, that is R of player 2, player 1's action M and B gives equal payoff. Okay, so this is as good as playing T or M. So this is weak domination. So we can say M weakly dominates T for player 1, right? I think this makes the point. Fine. Now compare either M, B. Let's compare B and M. B versus M for player 1 itself. So what will happen if P2 plays L, then payoff for 1 from M is same as payoff from B. This is 2, right? But if P2 plays R, then what will happen? Payoff to player 1 from M is 0, while payoff to player 1 from B is 1, which is strictly greater than 0. So it means, again, for actions B and M, this action B weakly dominates action M for P1. Now, what if we want to compare, say, B and T? What about B and T? I got it's a bit too thick. So come back here. So now what will happen with B? If P2 chooses L, P1 payoff from B is 2, while payoff from T is 1. 2 is strictly greater than 1, so fine, this part is fine. Now if P2 chooses R, so payoff to player 1 from choosing, let's change the color. I change the color to say this. Payoff for player 1 from playing T is 0, this one, while payoff from player 1 from playing B is 1. 1 is strictly greater than B. So what we realize, for between these strategies B and T, B is strictly dominant over T for player 1. So we see that we have one relation here, that M weakly dominates T, B weakly dominates M, but B strictly dominates T. So you should make home one point, that if one action is weakly dominating another action, it doesn't mean or let me say, if one action is dominating another action, it doesn't mean that it is the more strictly dominating every other action. It is possible that some other action can actually strictly dominate this also. Let me show you that using a different example. So let me open this OneNote. So see here, quickly I will make a table here. So this is one table, right? So as usual, player 1, player 2. Always remember this convention that row player is player 1, column player is player 2. Here we have T, M, B, same set of actions, L and R. I am slightly tweaking the payoff 1, 0, 2, 1, 3, 2. Now I don't need to repeat the entire logic. I will quickly say that M is strictly dominating T. You can see it here, right? Because 2 is strictly greater than 1 is strictly greater than 0, right? So this is true. But then M is not the sole strategy that is dominating T. M itself is being dominated by B. So B is dominating at M because for P2's action L, M gives payoff of 2 while B gives payoff of 3. 3 is strictly greater than 2. Similarly for R of player 2, B gives 2 while M gives 1. So you see here what we can write here. B is strictly dominating M is strictly dominating T, right? So this is the thing I wanted to convey. So let's come back and proceed further in our lecture. So now let's take another example that I have borrowed from a very interesting book that all of you should read if you want to study game theory and enjoy it. This is Games of Strategy by Avinash Dikshit, Susan Skeeth and David Rayleigh. So what is this example? This is about a game between RBI and government. RBI, you know that the Central Bank of India, and Government of India plays its own, it thinks budget. So it's about the budget and the monetary policy, right? Budget comes from the government and monetary policy comes from the RBI. So RBI has been given responsibility of keeping inflation in check. Okay. So keeping inflation check, that can be achieved by keeping high interest rate, because a high interest rate makes borrowing costlier, and once borrowing becomes costlier, liquidity in the market decreases. So this is one way of keeping reducing the liquidity in the market and keeping inflation in check. Actually, a very primary way. Now, government pressurizes it for low interest rate. Apart from other interest groups, businesses also want a low interest rate. Government also want a low interest rate, because that way it will look that government is promoting businesses. So now government has option of preparing the budget. So government can prepare a balanced budget, which means that income or revenue is equal to the expenditure. Government is spending only how much it's earning from taxes, and it can prepare a deficit budget. And deficit budget is that expenditures are more than the revenue. Government is spending more than it's earning through revenue. So government prefers deficit budget because this shows that it's spending more, it becomes popular. So now we have made a matrix form or normal form of the game. Government is the player 1, RBI is the player 2. Action available to the government is balanced budget or deficit budget. RBI, low interest rate, high interest rate. So see here the actions are different, right? Now, once we have seen this game, the question is this: does any player has a dominant strategy here, and what will be the outcome? This is what we have to solve. So let's see again. Let's start bringing our logic in action. So the RBI, it can do better by choosing low interest rate if it believes that the government is opting for the budget balance. So look back here. So if government is opting for budget balance and RBI chooses low interest rate, then it gets 4. If it chooses high interest rate, it gets 3. So because 4 is better than 3, so this should be preferable action if government is going to choose balanced budget. But then if the government is going to choose a deficit budget and RBI chooses low interest rate, then it gets only 1, while it can get 2 by choosing high interest rate. And 2 is greater than 1, so it means RBI will choose high interest rate if the government is choosing deficit budget. It means RBI as per se does not have any dominant strategy. Okay, its best action totally depends on what the player 1 is doing. Now look at the player 1, that is the government. So does it have any dominant strategy? So again, look back here in this table. So see here, if government believes that RBI is going to play a low interest rate, what should be the best option for this? If it plays balanced budget, it gets 3. If it plays deficit budget, it gets 4. Since 4 is greater than 3, deficit budget is preferred over balanced budget if the RBI is choosing a low interest rate. So this, now if government believes that RBI is going to choose high interest rate, then and government chooses balanced budget, government gets 1. If government chooses deficit budget, it gets 2. Again 2 is strictly greater than 1. So we realize that deficit budget is actually strictly dominating balanced budget, right? So we realize that the government has a dominant strategy, and this is the choosing the deficit budget. Now we have realized that the player 1 has a dominant strategy, that is deficit budget. Player 2 doesn't have any dominant strategy. Its dominant strategy, its response depends on what the player 1 is doing. So now, since the government has a dominant strategy, that is deficit budget, it will play this. RBI knows that government is going to play its dominant strategy and choose budget deficit. So the RBI will accordingly choose high interest rate, because for the dominant strategy of the government, that is deficit budget, high interest rate gives the payoff of 2, which is better than payoff of 1 that results from low interest rate. So now what will happen? You realize that the government is going to choose budget deficit, RBI is going to choose high interest rate. This is the outcome of the game. And one very important thing you have to remember always, that's why I have put here red bells. So how to report the equilibrium of a game? So the strategy pairs are the equilibrium here, deficit budget and high interest rate, and not the payoffs. What was the corresponding payoff? The corresponding payoff was 2, 2. 2 comma 2 is not the outcome, right? That is the equilibrium payoff, but not the equilibrium. Equilibrium is deficit, budget deficit and high interest rate. So the equilibrium outcome of the RBI versus government game is budget deficit, high interest rate, and not 2 comma 2. And can you tell me what may be the reason behind this? It is very intuitive. If you look back to the lesson 2, where I was talking about ordinal payoffs and all this, then you realize that I can very well change these payoffs here, right? I can make it 6, 8, 8, 2, 4, 4, 2, 6. Still the outcome will be budget deficit, high interest rate. But if I am reporting in terms of the numbers, the equilibrium payoffs, then my equilibrium will change. From 2, 2 it will become 4, 4. But if I am reporting using only the strategies, then deficit budget, high interest rate will still be outcome, whatever is the number here. So that's why we always report in terms of strategy pairs, and unless your instructor specifically asks you to write the equilibrium payoff, don't write 2-2. So I hope you would have enjoyed this lecture, and your idea about domination, dominant strategy, both strict domination and weak domination, is now clearer. So I suggest go back and do some practice, and we shall meet again in the next lecture. Till then, stay safe, enjoy, and bye.